Well, I cannot believe that I am following Michael Wilbon and Grant Hill in this wonderful experience. I know my 13-year-old son will find that chat a lot more interesting. But I want to thank Brad and Brooke and Nina and Dawn, Brittany and Jen and so many others for the invitation here today and for making my time with you possible. I also want to do a great shout out to your fabulous mayor, Rahm Emanuel. He's not only a fabulous mayor, but also a great friend. So cheers to Rahm. And so let's give a round of applause to this band. Aren't they fantastic? They get me all jazzed up here. So let me get into it. Who is the chief of protocol and what is protocol? Well, since the first moment that I was sworn in by Secretary Clinton, there I am with my husband and my son Cole, I realized that I was actually the first hand that welcomed the world to the United States on behalf of the president. Time and again, there I am, reaching out my hand and welcoming the world to the United States. I even welcomed Secretary Kerry to the Department of State when he first started on the job. But sometimes it wasn't a handshake. Sometimes, as you see there, it was a gesture. Well, hello. Yes, this way. No, please, yes, come this way. And so they followed along, which is really kind of cool when you're dealing with presidents, prime ministers, kings, and queens. I loved my job. I feel as though I had the best job in the world. I worked with the president, the vice president, and the secretaries of state on how we engage with the world, how we create better relationships with the world. And I worked with an extraordinary team in the Office of Protocol. They are truly fantastic. And so I was trying to figure out how could I explain exactly what we do, because it gets a little jargony, if you will, to all of you. But it falls into three basic areas. The first is that we created the literal framework for diplomacy. The president would have these bilateral arrangements, meetings, as you will. You saw we had Prime Minister Cameron there, and here we have Chancellor Merkel, and there is Secretary Clinton with President Karzai of Afghanistan, and there they are, the President and Secretary Clinton with Aung San Suu Kyi, all very, very important meetings. So we would create the literal framework around those meetings as well at summits and at state visits. Here we have the state visit of President Obama with former President Lee of Korea. Now, this day was a day like today here in Chicago. It was raining, and there was a big decision. Should we have the arrival ceremony inside or outside? Inside, outside, went back and forth. Finally, the president said, we're going outside. He wanted to have that iconic photograph of the two presidents with the White House as a backdrop. Very important to President Lee. So when President Lee had decided as well, he agreed, let's go outside. We went outside, and the military aides were there holding the umbrellas over the two presidents. Unfortunately, President Obama's military aide held the umbrella in such a way so that it allowed the water to drip perfectly down the umbrella on the president's face and then onto the podium, onto his remarks. So I was watching this happen. The president turned around and he signaled to the military, please move forward. And guys, he's not moving anywhere. He turned around again. He's like, can you please move forward? He was frozen in fear. This guy was not moving. So I'm the person there in that cute little green jacket. I scooted up the back staircase, went up behind the military aide, grabbed him by the hips, and gave a nice nudge forward. So then the umbrella was over the president's remarks, and he could continue on with his speech to the world. And I realized at that moment, there are some duties that I am going to have to do that were not in the protocol handbook. And it is true, there were many duties thereafter that I had to perform. Now, as well, we created an atmosphere for diplomacy, where we would honor and respect various individuals. And here is a photograph of me briefing the president alongside the commander at Andrews Air Force Base when the transfer of the remains of our four fallen patriots from Benghazi were sent back home. And that was a very difficult day for all of us. We also, I was also a part of credentialing ceremonies. And credentialing ceremonies when the president, he recognizes a top representative from every country. They are there to represent their country in an official capacity. We have the ambassador of St. Kitts and Nevis here along with her family. She told me later that she completely did not hear, she couldn't remember anything from the moment the president said welcome into the Oval Office. And then we also, in the Office of Protocol, use cultural exchange to enhance our relationships. My favorite way in which we do that is through gift exchanges. It's my favorite because it was a way in which we in the United States could showcase these great American designers, people who had fabulous goods and services that they can give to the president to give to leaders around the world, to prime ministers, presidents, kings, and in this instance, the Queen. This was my favorite gift exchange. President Obama was invited by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II to the UK for a state visit. And there was a very formal gift exchange that would take place there in the UK. So at the proper time, I was standing there waiting for Her Majesty to walk out, and we had learned that Her Majesty had a very a strong fondness for all memorabilia of her father's when he traveled around the world. So we went about collecting any kind of memorabilia we could from his last visit to the United States, and we called upon a good friend, Harvey Weinstein, who was the producer of the King's Speech, if you'll remember, and he brought in wonderful, unique memorabilia that we put into a leather-bound portfolio. So when Her Majesty saw that, she was so touched. She said, "Oh, this is lovely, this is lovely." And I'm sorry I don't have a picture of that one, but then she looked to her right, and there is this beautiful box, and she said, "Oh, Philip, come over and see what they've got you." And so he comes over, and we had learned that Prince Philip liked to race carriage ponies. So we created bits and shanks for his carriage ponies, and we soldered on the ends the president's seal. Well, he walked over to the box, and he picked it up, and he said, "Oh, these will break my pony's jaws." And she said, "Oh, nonsense, Philip." And so she called over this really large guy. And meanwhile, I'm looking at the president horrified. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be a bad gift." And so she calls over this guy, and he comes over. He's a very tall man. He lifts him up. He says, "Oh, this is excellent workmanship. Excellent, Your Majesty." And these were crafted in Ohio and in Colorado. So I was very happy that he had said that. She turned to Prince Philip. She goes, "I told you, Philip." So then she looked to her right, and she said, "Well, who are the bushes for?" And we had learned that Prince Charles, of course, is a great environmentalist. And so we collected saplings from Mount Vernon, Monticello, and the White House, and put them in this beautiful box made from magnolia wood from a tree that had fallen on the south grounds. And in the center, there was a little bit of White House honey. And he said, "Oh, White House honey, oh, how lovely. I make honey too. I have honey on my grounds." And Prince Philip then joined in. He says, "Well, I have honey too, if I have honey out there." And so it became a bit of a honey off there around the gift, which was really kind of fun. But I tell you, 5 minutes later, I went downstairs, turned on the television, and there on the news, they were saying, "Americans get it right. Her Majesty is very pleased with the gifts that she received." It makes a difference. It really makes an enormous difference. So, if many things from what we did in the Office of Protocol would always go, on cue, and right. But on occasion, we did have a few mishaps, and those can create also a tremendous impact. In this instance, the impact was only made on me. This is during the state visit of President Calderon of Mexico. And he came in. I am Mexican-American, first generation, so very important. My entire family is watching this visit live on C-SPAN and CNN from Cleveland. And so my job at the state dinners is to escort the president and the first lady out onto the north portico, and then I take my position, to the left, and I wait for the motorcade to pull up, and then I descend the stairs. Well, as I began to descend the stairs at this visit, yes, oh, there I go, down. Now, does the Secret Service or the military, anybody reach out? No, the only one who reaches out is the president. The president is the only one who comes to my aid, and Mrs. Obama saying, don't take that picture. And meanwhile, there's like 300 flashing bulbs at me, and I'm blinded by this, can't see anything. And I'm like, oh gosh, well, of course, okay, I'm okay, I feel great. I do P90X, I had a little bit of core activity going on, so I got right back up again. And I'm thinking, oh, this is horrible. Well, if you Google, as my son has done on many, many, many occasions, Capricia Fall, there's a great remix of me going up and down, up and down. Now, this was the gift that kept on giving, because every time we went to the North Portico, the president would be standing right behind me, and he'd whisper in my ear, will she go down or will she stay up? We may not know. And Mrs. Obama was right behind him going, Barack, stop it, leave her alone, leave her alone. But as you can see, all of these various interactions, both large and small, made just an enormous, enormous difference. And we did a lot of work in our traditional framework within the Office of Protocol, but it was exhausting. And on occasion, I got really, really tired. But we had to depart from that traditional framework, and Secretary Clinton forced us into departing. She created this new philosophy called smart power, where we really thought outside of the box, outside of our traditional framework. What else could we do? She called upon us to think of how could we use our diplomatic tools to engage with the world even more. And so I created this new division called the Diplomatic Partnerships Division. And within that division, there were four programs. One was called Experience America, and this is where we took the ambassadors outside of Washington, D.C. to showcase the greatness of our country. And our first visit was right here to the Windy City, to Chicago. It was fantastic. We showed them all bits and pieces of Chicago, and especially that fabulous Chicago food. We then went on to Alaska. Oh, if you haven't been to Alaska, you gotta go. It is so amazing. I just kept going, wow, this is America. This is America. This is fabulous. We had a wonderful visit there. We took them then to Arkansas, where President Clinton greeted them, and we brought them right here to Central High and had a great conversation with the Little Rock Nine. We didn't want to only showcase the greatness of our nation. We also wanted to show some of the ink spots so that we can engage in a conversation of how we dealt with those. We brought them to Wyoming. Here we are at a chuck wagon, and also then to Atlanta. President Carter greeted us there. But the person speaking here is Ambassador Rasool from South Africa. He was imprisoned with Mandela, and behind him you'll see there's Congressman Lewis, and he talked about how the civil rights movement here in the United States really helped them in South Africa to break free from apartheid. So it was a wonderful exchange, and again, creating new relationships, new bonds. This is another program. We had a program where we had issues forums. Here's the former ambassador of the United States to China and the former Chinese ambassador of the United States talking about new ways to engage in business. And this is one of my favorites. It was called Taste Of, where we invited in children from embassies, various embassies, to talk to public school children in Washington, D.C. about their culture and learning more, having this wonderful exchange with one another. This was the Taste of UK. We had the Taste of China. There I am at a cultural presentation of some Kung Fu. A Taste of Mexico, and of course, the Taste of Thanksgiving, which was really exciting because that is our unique holiday, our unique American holiday to talk about, the whole concept of volunteering and those opportunities. This was our last program within the division. It was our speaker series, State of the Administration, where the ambassadors could meet top people within our government and learn more about what our government's goals are, and meet with the chief of staff, like here, Bill Daley. Normally, they would never meet with him. And we had other initiatives. We had this wonderful, I started this wonderful initiative called the Diplomatic Culinary Partnership. We brought in chefs from around the country to talk about our great American cuisine. And here we are honoring then Vice President Xi Jinping. This visit was very, very important. As you can see, we had both Vice President Biden and Secretary Clinton there. And Vice President Xi Jinping, then Vice President Xi Jinping, was so honored that we had brought in this chef to honor him on this visit. So it was a very special moment. And now we have over 100 chefs, American chefs, that travel within the United States and abroad talking about our great American culinary initiative. Here we have the Global Chiefs of Protocol Conference, where I invited in many of my counterparts to talk about ways in which they engage with the world through cultural exchange. And there were just so many other ways. So this is a small peek, if you will, behind the curtain of protocol that I was able to offer you. Oftentimes my heel was the only one in a mass of male loafers, but each and every moment for me was incredibly special. It is an honored post, an honored privilege to have served in that capacity for President Obama, Secretary Clinton, and Secretary Kerry, and for all of you, because I was literally your chief of protocol as well. Now, I was going to engage in what would you do, but I've talked too much. Now I only have 2 minutes to wrap up. So I guess I will leave you with really a final thought, that each of you can be ambassadors. Each of you can engage in cultural exchange. Meet someone from a different country and ask them about what's special about their culture. What could they share that maybe you never knew before? And then talk about the greatness of the United States. Talk about our great American culture and traditions. And I know that you will enhance our relationships with those from another country and make your own tremendous impact. So I thank you all so very much for this opportunity, and thank you, Chicago Ideas Week.